Dime qué tú quieres, papi. ¿Quieres que lo mueva para ti? Mueve, mueve. ¿Te gusta cuando me muevo así? Así.
Thank you, God, for this day. We have lived everything in our life, our health, our family, the guidance you have given us, allow us guidance to the path of righteousness. Amen.
Really, I'ma get that bitch. Revenge is a dish best served cold. She took my son, now my soul is cold. He took my daddy, now my soul is old. Yeah. Woke up.
Yeah, man.
That's hot shit right there, man.
So what we gonna do? We gonna dub?
King Chaka ENT. Y'all can check out the music on Spotify, Apple, and other services. Doing what we do 3 to 4 nights a week. King Chaka ENT.
I got this.
From the
She
back
starts
seat.
shooting.
That dude was like, ow.
What was that?
Outside the car,
That nigga
deputies'
got
body
popped.
cameras capturing the bullets flying through the air.
We got shots
It
fired
couldn't
up
have been
here.
a straight
We need
shot. It
back
had
up
to be.
immediately. Start
Are you-
EMS. Start EMS.
What
We got
the
a
fuck?
civilian. We got a civilian hit.
The deputy.
Looks like we got us another hit.
Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, an educated public cannot be controlled. Learn to be active. The views and events expressed here are totally whack, not necessarily the views of anyone. Yeah, so boil water notice. I got a little break today. I worked this morning. I have to work tonight. And so, but anyways, the boil water notice thing, didn't seem like a big deal. But the more I think about it, I'm like, it seems like a big deal because I saw the map. It looked like the whole Harris County. They're saying boil water notice. But anyways, the whole thing sounds kind of fishy to me. So I want to do some digging around on it. This is the Houston Water Director explaining citywide water boil notice. Let me play some of this.
Can you walk me through what the situation is at this moment?
At this moment, the system pressures are above the regulatory requirements. We did have a low pressure event earlier today, and per TC regulation required us to issue a boil water notice.
When did these pressures drop below acceptable levels?
We have monitors in the system that said the incident occurred about 10:30 this morning.
And obviously, we got the alert around 6:45. How do you explain that time gap? Why did it take so long for folks to get notified about this?
I'm sorry, my dogs are barking in the background. So what happened was we had a power disruption in the facility. And when we saw the pressure alarms, at first we thought it was a main break. Then we became notified that the disruption occurred and they had to restart the facility. And all actions were based at that time on trying to restart the plant and see what was happening in the system to make sure that everything stayed safe.
So at this point, that almost 9-hour gap between when the pressures dropped and people were notified via the media now, is there any concern there about the gap where people probably were not boiling their water and they were going on as business as usual?
No, because the reason we're doing the boil water notice is the regulatory requirement. Our system maintained pressure. We never lost pressure fully, so there was never an opportunity for anything to enter our system. They just fell below the regulatory requirements.
So to be clear, when something like this, you're saying, am I hearing you say there's no risk to the public because of what happened or in this time gap?
It is, the boil water notice is out of an abundance of caution because the system lost pressure below the regulatory requirement. And you do want to make sure people are aware that for a time period, we were below the regulatory limit.
What can you walk folks through? What are the possibilities of what can happen, or why those regulatory requirements exist? What is the danger or the concern when pressure drops below a certain level for the 20 minutes or so that it was below pressure?
So I'm not the full expert on things that can enter a water system, but as I mentioned, our system stayed pressurized. So there was no risk of anything overpressuring and entering your water system.
Yeah. How many people, obviously Houston is the 4th largest city in the country. Can you give me a sense of how many people this boil water notice is impacting? This isn't a neighborhood in the city. This is a boil water notice to the entire city, correct?
Correct. So the majority of the city of Houston is under this boil water notice.
And can you give me a sense of just the scale of that? How many people we're talking?
All of the city has one pressure plane. So you're talking about the entire city.
And so what are the next, do you have any idea as to when folks can go back to business as usual and not have to boil their water?
We are submitting a plan to the TCEQ. Once that's approved, we will begin collecting samples. They take about 18 hours to get the answers back, the analysis of the samples. And so more than likely, this will be lifted early on Tuesday.
The samples.
And in the meantime, what does the city encourage folks to be doing during this time period? Obviously, we got school starting up tomorrow. People will be going to school. It's difficult when you have to boil your water. I'm sure districts are probably making plans as well.
Well, we had the language in the boil water notice. If you're at home or you have the ability to boil your water for about 2 minutes, just to ensure its safety. For those other people, we recommend bottled water for consumption.
Gotcha. Is there anything else that you think folks should know, or the city wants to get across to folks who may be getting this alert on their phones tonight and would be caught off guard or surprised by the notice?
Well, I just want people to know that, we take this very seriously. We are activated our plan as soon as we were alerted, trying to ensure that we could recover the facility and get the information out to the public.
In retrospect, are you guys going to be looking at that time gap that was, when the pressure?
He keeps going back to that. What's interesting to me from what she said was, it seems like she was saying that it's safe, right, overall. But then she said, we won't know until we get samples back. So that means they want to test it.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot of what she's saying. But I think the whole thing is that before that they can release take the boil water notice off, they have to have so many clean samples to be able to say, because I mean, which she already feels that it's really just a matter of time because, there was really not low enough pressure in the system for things to too high or too low for anything to enter the system. So
right. So if she's feeling confident about that, and she's saying basically it's fine. I wonder, because then they're saying that they need to test it for samples. But she's saying there's no chance that stuff could have got in there. The pressure kept going. And then I looked. The map is so huge. I wonder if I have that. I don't know if I shared that. I'm gonna play this other little video right quick, a short bit of it, while I look and see if I can find that map, because it was like the whole Harris County. I don't want to be saying the wrong thing, but it looked like that map was the whole as Harris County, and that's crazy.
Notice impacting all of Houston.
Yeah, what it means is that you should boil all water used for food prep, drinking, and brushing your teeth. Boil the water for at least 2 minutes. Don't use chilled water lines on your fridge, and don't use automatic ice machine.
Well, ABC 13's Charlie Eppley is live. us more with why this is happening. Charlie, help us explain this.
Jessica, well, unfortunately for those affected by this boil water notice, it looks like it could be several more hours of having to boil your tap water if you plan to consume it. So according to Mayor Sylvester Turner, he thinks that this notice may be in effect until tonight or even into tomorrow morning. So it's really crucial that you are paying attention to this information if you are in an impacted area. So take a look at your screen here. This is a map of those who are under this boil water notice. It's a pretty large portion there of the Houston area. So we've learned this problem all stems from a power outage that happened around 10:30 a.m. yesterday. The outage affected the East Water Purification Plant. 3 sections.
Wait, let me go back to this map here. I wish they could have been better with this. I saw this earlier briefly, and a lot of people was complaining about this map.
Well,
and
look,
for good reason.
Go ahead.
What I was gonna say is who's affected and who's not, you know, and it's got these little pockets. I guess those places. Let me turn off this caption. I guess those places have their own.
Question.
Go ahead.
The other question is anybody really affected?
And well, okay. And I the question I have is how long really was it, you know, a concern? I'm thinking that, you know, because someone was saying something about okay, today is Monday, so Sunday is when it happened, right? So, but someone was saying they knew about this before Sunday, that there was an issue with the water. I just feel like they're not telling us everything. That's what I'm saying. Like something is fishy with this. And because like, okay, so she said it's all of the city of Houston has one line or whatever she said. So like, that's another thing that's hard for me to understand. Like you have this huge area, like, so one plant or whatever, it went below pressure or whatever. And that one place affected this huge area. That's another part that is kind of got me like.
It's water. I mean, it's not like, you can say, hey, I dug this pile of dirt and set it over here. Like, I mean, you never can identify what water was where.
So all of those systems are connected. And how long would it take for the contaminations to spread, like, you know, throughout this whole ass system? That's another thing. Like, this is a lot of space. This is a lot of area.
Probably within an hour. I would say that with the circulation that is probably within an hour, it could probably be all over the entire city. Like, well, maybe even really in minutes. But
from Humble to Friendswood, you know, we're still talking about it within, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, but I mean, is that all Harris County too? Well, that's what I'm saying. This map is funky right here, but this looks like Harris County to me. It looks very similar to the Harris County map to me. Now, I could be wrong. But it, you know, if you're looking at the map, it looks like it ends at Sugar Land on the southwest.
But I mean, I think also for precaution, like, I mean, they probably stretched it beyond the actual, you know, confines or limits or whatever of the that water flow where all those different ways it's flowing in and out. Like, they probably extended it just to give a safe range of where the possibilities. So they probably extended it a little further just to make sure, which, I mean, I would say, you know, it's smart. I mean, at least, you know, you cover more area than necessary. But
yeah. So it looks like Pearland is good, Friendswood is good. It looks like Sugar Land for the most part is good. And then it's got this little gap in the middle where Bel Air is, and they seem to be good. So it's like they must be on another system. Galena Park over here is good. Pasadena for the most part is good. Deer Park, Channelview, all that's for the most part is good. Cypress, Katy seems like they're good. There's a little gap here, and I don't know where the hell that is. So, like, that's another problem with this damn map that they gave us. It's like it seems like they could have done a better job. It definitely, this whole thing feels like they could have done a better job, because a lot of people were saying they got notified by their schools before anybody else notified them. It's like, what kind of system do we have? They do those Amber Alerts and they hit everybody's phone, you know? What did I see it on? I saw it. Well, you know, I follow the news and stuff, so I got some kind of news alert that said it. And so I don't know. It seems like they
Well,
could
I
have.
don't have mine set up on Houston anymore.
Yeah. And look at this. Look at this on the map over here where Atascocita is. That part right there is in the red. And help me understand how the water can have this water over here. It looks like southern part of Atascocita area. That water is connected to this water way the hell over here in Harris County. Help me understand that. It's a huge ass gap. It's like Humble in between, Sheldon is in between, and they're good. But this over here in the Atascocita, that they're in the red too. So they're a part of this water system. How does that work?
Well, bro, I mean, you know, science is pretty good, and I'd hate to underestimate it, because I mean, you know, this is really, you know, I guess to some extent how, you know, should be, because I mean, I guess you could, you know, because I'm sure you could shut off different systems, different sections from the main system, but if we're talking about something that flows, you know, together and allows it to, you know, to work the way it does, like I think it would have to have some intersectionality to it, you know, like it have to.
If they intersect, then that means that they're mixing with the same water, and they should be red on this map. So what I'm saying is, what kind of pipes would they have for these people way the hell over there to be a part of the system? That's what I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. That don't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, you know, do you know how many millions of gallons flows through the system? Like, I mean, and you know, you just think about, I mean, and it's almost like the bloodline of the city. You know
I
what I'm
get it,
saying?
but what I'm saying is this map here is revealing. Like, it's revealing in a way to me that, you know, that, like, I understand if it's all connected and it's all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why would it go from one water system and back to another one over here? And how could that one be connected and affected so far away and having to do with the
Because
one plant?
because it has one main source.
Well,
Like
that,
they would it would have to be, I mean, really as simple as that.
yeah, but those other places in between are getting their water from a different source. So you mean to tell me you got pipes going through a part, getting a different water source, and then you go a whole bunch of miles away and they're connected to this source that's really far away with these other with the main city area? I don't understand that. Logistically, that doesn't make sense. Let me play some more of this right here.
Water purification plant. 3 sections of the plant lost power, and that's when the water pressure was also affected. So according to the director of Houston Water, the city's pressure system was never completely at zero, but it did fall just below the regulatory limit. And that pressure, of course, is important because that's what prevents integrating the water system. So the guidance right now is to boil tap water for at least 2 minutes for consumption. So that includes, if you're making coffee this morning, you need to make sure you're boiling that tap water before you put it into the machine. So the timeline of this has left a lot of people questioning, why did it take so long for the notice to be issued? Well, here's the response from the director of Houston Water.
This is not an instantaneous automatic notice. Just because the power went out does not mean the pressure dropped in the system. We had to verify that that pressure drop was real. We also had to reach out to TCEQ. There are a number of steps in the regulatory process before you issue a boil water notice.
Then she's at the house chilling.
Yeah, and but I kind of get more of what you're saying, especially after the comment she just made. Like listen to what she said again, and it does sound like because and then I guess also with the idea that you threw, like I mean I hate when you do shit like that, but now but it makes so much sense though. Like I mean they got these damn things that tell us about you know what you call it
The Amber Alerts.
let's just say what flash flood, the amber alerts, flash flood, you know, um, these different alert systems that could intertwine. Like those messages don't have to just be telling you to buckle your damn seatbelt. You know what I'm saying all the time. Like it could be notices that goes out. Like anybody that's connected to that emergency setup should be able to get those same kind of alerts in a matter of moments, just like we do with when we know a kid or a
Right.
grandmother,
Those
some
the
an
Texas
elderly
system,
is gone missing.
the highway system on Texas is really freaking good. Like it's high tech as hell because you look at those signs and they synchronize across the whole ass state, you know. Something happens in Dallas
Yeah,
and
and
you get what I'm saying? Because they
yeah,
know these interstates are all connected. So they those highways. So on the highway, something happens in Dallas, they're telling you about it in San Antonio and Houston and shit. And in
yeah,
real
yeah,
time, in real time.
real time. And I mean, because like I said, I mean, our traffic system is extremely important. But you would think that knowing about the water system or anything like that, yes, we should know right away so that even if they haven't gotten it figured out exactly what it is, put a warning out there. Hey, potential water contamination. Be let's use a little extra precaution during this short period. Temporarily until we get more information, and then you know which I mean, I get, could, to some extent, I think the government likes to, somewhat control the information so it's not people not going pandemonia. But at the same time, I also know how else they use that type of information, which, like, we all have to be discerning on that. But I really think that in a case like this, if potentially we've gotten some contaminated water, like we should know about that possibility sooner. So
Let me I want to read some comments. I lost my green screen. Pressing too many buttons. I got a lot of screens open too. I want to read some of the comments underneath the video of the lady, the water director lady. Okay, am I sharing? All right. These are comments underneath the video. The Houston water director explains citywide boil notice. First comment, it says, I had no clue about this until my mom called me. I went straight to Kroger to get water, but they will be out soon. Over 2 million people with no drinking water, and the city officials seem to be completely unconcerned. Crazy. Another comment, it says,
yeah,
her answers were contradictory and confusing. City needs to send out a clarification. She says the system never lost pressure, but then said it went below the regulatory required pressure. And it took 9 hours for the city to send out a boil water notice. Very long delay, and she did not give a good explanation why. She said there was no risk, but at the same time tells the whole city to boil its water. Very confusing. That's what I'm saying.
all right, I need to step out for just a moment. I'll be right back.
All right, I'll read some more. It says, next comment, it says, no accountability, no competence, all apathy. She needs to go. Okay, that's helpful, buddy. Another comment, it says, seriously, I'm still up because my stomach is bothering me. I literally didn't shower and brush my teeth until late this morning. Been washing my hands all day. Ate at a restaurant about 3:30-ish in Bel Air. Then came home and washed dishes and warmed up dinner. Literally moving about as business as usual today, just to now find out about the water about an hour ago. And before that, trying to figure out why is my stomach in knots and my head hurting. I rarely get headaches randomly. I believe y'all when you say that you don't feel well, because I don't. That notice should have come out far sooner. Another comment, it says, we are barely finding out about this. What the F? We need alerts for these types more than a missing child elderly from 4 states over. That's what I was saying. Another comment, if their coverage map is any indication of how the city operates, the city of Houston is totally screwed. Not only does this lady not know what is happening, she doesn't even suspect. He said, if their coverage map, that map is something else. That's what's really jumped. That's the real reason why I wanted to do this show, because I wasn't thinking about this as a thing. You know, it happens all the time, but that map is what jumped out to me, because the whole ass Harris County, and then like something's fishy with this. What is going on? Let me read some more. It says the amount of money that it costs for what it's supposed to be one of the lowest utility bills, and they still can't get it together. Oh yeah, that's the other part of this, because they said they lost power. So what, they didn't have no backup generators? Maybe they do. They don't kick in fast enough. What is it? Just because it was the power went out for a short amount of time, and that was long enough for it to lose pressure? Explain this stuff to me. You know, such an important infrastructure should have backup generators and everything ready to go for this kind of situation. Let me read another comment. It says, her summary is illogical. The boil notification was issued because of regulatory requirements, but it took 9 hours to make sure. If the notice was required, it should have gone out as soon as the sensors detected low pressure. No reason why other than that should be taken into account. Well, maybe they have some kind of policies or procedures in place for this kind of situation where they do their checks and stuff. But that's the problem. That's what makes us not trust them, because it's like, y'all not telling us everything. Tell us the procedure. Tell us how it goes. How often does this actually happen? You know, what kind of procedures do y'all have in place? What checks do y'all do? What are y'all checking for? What sensors do y'all have? Let me read another one. It says, why is she acting as if his questions are unreasonable? And how were those notifications issued? Because this video is the first I'm hearing about this. Another comment, that was the cause of, it says, what was the cause of the power outage? Boom, there goes another question. The manager appears to not support the TCEW regulations. Why? What sources could have overpressured the 20 pounds in the system? Why are there not 2 independent sources of power to this critical infrastructure component? Given the stated need for eyes-on verification and checking of calibration, if the whole system reported low pressure, did you believe that all the pressure monitors failed the same way at nearly the same time? Like, we got questions. We have questions. I'm not just crazy. I'm glad I'm reading these comments. It makes me feel less crazy. Let me read another comment. It says, with a lower system pressure, there is immediate gaseous quantities that absorb into a liquid phase in a compromised condition, such as a water plant. Example, sulfides, chlorides, etc., etc. There is also the possibility of a plus-minus pressures in the outlets and inlets of systems, allowing a significant amount of material such as bacteria or heavy metals into the system. ppm levels of dissolved contaminants could raise above 175 ppm, which is horrible for ingestion. Plus 20 minutes is definitely a long time for pressure disruption, but this is just my guess, hypothesis. This guy obviously knows something. That's why I like to read these comments. They think we're all dumb. They think we're all stupid, and that's why they just tell us whatever the hell they tell us. But we're not. A lot of people out here know stuff. That's why I like to read comments, because I always learn something in the comments. Let me read another one. It says, I have the bubblies right now. By drinking a cup of water from my neighbors, I have a water system at home and never had this problem. Another comment, it says, thanks for the job, Sylvester. You're my favorite cousin. What was that about? Another comment, but wouldn't hurt to just tell us 9 hours ago to boil water until we confirm. Another comment, I appreciate her honesty about the facts. I'm going to just read a few more comments because it's starting to get repetitive. It's this one. It says, the amount of panic on here is pretty ridiculous. Anyone who is familiar with the U.S. regulations would know that the level of conservatism they apply to their thresholds is borderline extreme. So she is basically saying that the threshold for alerting the public was barely met, meaning there is essentially zero chance of contamination. But as always, the comments always start becoming either politically motivated or individuals with little knowledge on the matter. Chill out, everyone. There's nothing to worry about here. And if you're sick, no, it's not because of the water. So please don't use this as an excuse to start the I'm going to file a lawsuit garbage. You know, maybe we are overreacting, you know, but I mean, you can't blame people for being concerned because we use water so much. And what concerns me is how big that map was. So how interconnected this is and how many people are served by this water. It seems to me that they could do the system in a way that will be better, you know, and have it, have compartments, have, safeguards to keep from, if there's a contamination that gets into the system, it shouldn't be able to make its way around the whole as Harris County. Like, it's too many people, it's too many usages going on where you should have some stop points for the water to flow. You know what I mean? As far as they notice a contamination or a low pressure or whatever, any kind of issue that can happen in certain part of the system, then you have safeguards to cut the system from mixing with the rest of it and keep it localized, right? I mean, call me freaking crazy. Another comment, it says, it's timestamp 240. Wait, so the director of water is not an expert on water? Well, you don't expect her to know everything. Like, she's talking about the systems and stuff. All of this stuff is complex with multiple moving parts. So it's going to be somebody else who really knows something about the she's director. She's like, you know how it goes, almost a politician. So she knows what they tell her. I wanted to go to the Associated Press. No, Houston Water, ABC 13's article. That's what it was. Let's read this article. I want to redo my green screen, but I'd have to go out and come back in for that. Okay, am I sharing? All right. It says, this is ABC News, January 6th. January 6th. What? That can't be right. What are they talking about? November 28, 2022. Okay, 11:57. Houston underwater boil notice after power failure. Mayor Sylvester Turner said the water is safe. Is this a video? It's a 1 minute video, but I want to read the article. It says this is the caption underneath. It says, how to keep your water safe during a boil water advisory. Some counties may issue a boil water advisory during major storms. Okay, random information. Over 2 million Houston residents are under a water boil notice after a power outage Sunday affected a water treatment plant, officials said. The water pressure dropped below the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality's requirement minimum of 20 psi during a power outage at the East Water Purification Plant around 10:30 a.m. According to the agency, Houston schools were closed Monday because of the order. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner said the water was safe and the boil order was done to comply with regulations. He tweeted that the city submitted its plan to TCEQ to lift the notice Sunday night. Water samples will subsequently follow, and hopefully we will get the all clear from TCEQ. The city has to wait 24 hours from that point before the boil water notice is suspended. The earliest would be tomorrow night or very early Tuesday morning, Turner tweeted Sunday night. Yvonne William Forrest, Houston's water director, told ABC affiliate KTRK Sunday night that the city's pressure system was never at zero, just below the regulatory limit. That pressure is important because it prevents anything from infiltrating the water system, she said. There are a number of steps in the regulatory process before you issue a boil water notice, and we didn't want to unnecessarily alert the city if we did not have to issue a boil water notice, she told KTRK. Turner said Monday morning the power outage was caused by two transformers that malfunctioned. Power was restored around 12:15 p.m. local time, he said. The mayor said 16 sensors fell below 20 psi for 2 minutes, which triggered the emergency, and full water pressure restored above 20 psi at 14 of the 16 locations by 3 p.m. The water samples that were sent to TCEQ have to sit and wait for 18 hours for the city to get the all clear, according to Turner. He said the earliest the boil notice will be rescinded is early Tuesday morning. Turner said the incident will be investigated and apologized to the city, schools, and kids and parents for the cancellations. I can't tell you why it failed. Stuff does happen, and it's unfortunate, he said. I don't think it's worth playing that. Well, let's listen to Turner talk about it in his words, because they did a whole press conference. It's an hour long, so we're just gonna play the beginning of it.
With two caveats. This does not apply to Kingwood, and neither does it apply to those who are serviced by the Clear Lake Water Authority. Okay, so Kingwood and those who are serviced by the Clear Lake Water Authority are not impacted by the boil water notice. And let me kind of go over the timeline of events that triggered the boil water notice. At 10:30 a.m. Sunday morning, the East Water Purification Plants 1 and 2 lost power. At 10:50, Plant 3 lost power. And these are the three plants located inside the East Water Purification Plant. Just before 11 a.m., the water pressure dipped below the regulatory levels of 35 psi at 21 water pressure monitoring sites. So they dipped below 35 at 11 a.m. At 11 a.m., pressure at 16 of those 21 sites dropped below the emergency regulatory level of 20 psi. So that was at 11 a.m. 16 of the 21 sites dropped below the emergency regulatory level of 20 psi. Pressure rebounded above 20 psi in less than 2 minutes at 14 of the 16 locations. So I want us to kind of make sure we understand the timeline and what was happening here. So at 14 of those 16, where it fell below 20 psi, they remained below 20 psi for less than 2 minutes. The remaining two locations of that 16 rose above the 20 psi at 11:30. So 14 were below 20 psi for less than 2 minutes. 2 of the sensors rebounded above the 20 psi in 30 minutes. For 5 of the 21 sensors, they never fell below 20 psi. Okay. A plant electrician arrived at the East Water Purification Plant at 11 a.m. to troubleshoot the problem. Further investigation by the Houston Water found that 2 transformers at Plant 1 went offline due to a ground trip and current overload. The electrical feeder from Plant 3 also experienced a ground fault trip. Both Saber, that's S-A-B-E-R, B as in boy, E-R, the electrical contractor, and Centerpoint Energy were on site to investigate how not one transformer faulted, but the redundant transformer also failed. And what I'm being told, even when you have the grid providing power and you have your generators to step in, when these two transformers failed, it prevented the power to the system. Power was restored to plants 1 and 2 at 12:15 p.m. Sunday. I'm sorry,
PM.
at 12:15 p.m. on Sunday, and power was restored to Plant 3 at 12:30. So in terms of the power disruption, 2 hours, from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. 21 sensors, 16 of them fell below 20 psi. 14 of the 16 stayed below for less than 2 minutes, and 2 stayed below for 30 minutes. Power was restored at 12:30 p.m. Full water pressure was restored to all 3 plants by 3:30 p.m., and all locations were back at 35 psi's. Further investigation and testing on the breakers, transformers, motors, and feeders found a bad cell in Plant 1 transformer. And I have asked for a complete diagnostic review of this system to further verify and to identify how we make sure it does not happen again. The Houston Water field staff verified all pressures across the system. Houston Water, in communication with TCEQ, determined a boil water notice needed to be issued on Sunday evening, and that was somewhere around 6 p.m., 6:40 is when that decision was made. Conversations with TCEQ were taking place from 2:43 p.m. up to 6:40. And it was at that point, based on the data, based on the sensors, that it was a decision was made that a boil water notice was to be issued. And one of the reasons why it took that long, because as you can see, for 14 of the sensors, they remain below 20 psi for less than 2 minutes. And for 2 sensors, they remain below 20 psi for 30. So there were questions as to whether or not even a boil water notice needed to be issued. A decision was made out of abundance of caution to issue the boil water notice, and it was done. Notice was sent to the public at 6:44 p.m. Sunday night. And here's where we stand right now. The TCEQ approved our water sampling plan at 10:41 p.m. Sunday night. And I want to thank TDEM, Texas Department of Emergency Management, and TCEQ for working with the Houston Public Works Department. They approved the water sampling plan at 10:41 p.m. Sunday night. Samples were pulled from 29 locations at 6 a.m. and 9:30 this morning. 2 locations, and out of, again, abundance of caution, just in case if the first sample didn't pan out, then we had another sample ready to go. All the samples arrived at Houston Water Labs by 9:45 morning. The samples will then sit and incubate for at least 18 hours per state regulations, and the first reads of the samples will be taken at 3, that should be 3 p.m.
Well, we'll review it, but the first official read that we can do is at 3 a.m.
At 3 a.m. to determine if the water is free from contamination. Those results will be sent to the TCEQ for verification and to determine if the city can rescind the boil water notice. Although there'll be various readings throughout the day that will give us some indication as to whether or not we anticipate the end result to be a very positive one. We are optimistic the results will come back clean. The TCEQ will notify the city once we can rescind the boil water notice, and it's our hope that we can get a positive word at least late tonight or early on tomorrow morning, because we would love to see schools resume, businesses continue to function and open up if they have had to close, and if there are any surgeries that are having to be postponed, hopefully they can proceed on tomorrow. So that's where we are, okay? And I will take at this point any questions that you may have. One at a time.
Mr. Mayor, people who live in, say, West Houston, in the fourth largest city, wonder, a plant goes down on the east side. Why do I have to abide by this notice? Can you someone explain
the East Water
logistics of the water system here?
The East Water Purification
That's what I was
provides
wondering.
water to pretty much the city as a whole, with the exception of Kingwood and those who receive service from the Clear Lake Water Authority. They have their own sort of systems. But the East Water Purification provides water to the entire city, in addition to some muds that are adjacent, they're very much adjacent. And that's the reason. And even though we don't have any evidence of contamination, and even though the PSI fell below, let's say for 14 of them, less than 2 minutes, and for 2 of them, about 30 minutes, out of abundance of caution, that's why the notice was given to everybody. Yes.
You said you possibly want to make a decision on the boil water notice late tonight. Can you make that decision before the 3 a.m. read of the samples?
Only we're working in collaboration with TCEQ. They know that the samples have been collected. They're in the incubation stage right now. During the course of the day, we'll take a look to see whether or not there's any contamination of any kind. We'll continue to work very closely with the TCEQ. In the end, it will be their call. So at the latest, we anticipate clean report coming, let's say 3 a.m. at the latest. Could it be before? Possibly, depending on how TCEQ read the data. Okay? Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate on why redundancies did not take over when a transformer failed?
Two transformers failed.
Transformers failed. Or is there a need for an additional redundancy that does not exist in the system?
The first transformer failed, and then the redundant one was the second transformer, which coincidentally and uniquely also failed. So there were 2 transformers. One was the backup to the first. They both failed. And then you do have backup generation. But when you have the 2, and Carol, you tell me if I'm misstating anything, when you have the 2 transformers that failed, one was the backup, and you can connect to the grid where the power is running, and you can connect to your generators, then you have a very unique and unfortunate situation. Now, I have instructed Public Works to do an overall review of our system, a diagnostic review, to see how we prevent this from happening again. I will tell you we had a similar problem last year, I believe, at the HEC Center, where on a nice day, the power also failed. So that occurred before. This is not the first. It's the first in this particular situation, but the backup was the second transformer for the system. For whatever reason, and I'm not the technical person, I can't tell you why both failed. But stuff, I will say stuff does happen. It's unfortunate. A lot of people were impacted and are impacted. Certainly apologize for that. But we'll do a diagnostic review and work with all of our partners to assess the situation and to mitigate a future occurrence of this kind. Yes.
People all around Houston are obviously very angry today. And one of the questions they are asking is, I know y'all were making a decision during that time in between the outage, during the time between there and the notification, but why couldn't Houstonians have been given any information during that time just so that they could make their own educated decisions?
Well, but that's why we have the process in place. This is a situation in which you had 21 sensors that indicated after there was a power disruption between 10:30 and 12:30.
I'm sure.
We're starting at 11.
I'm sure.
At
Just
11
cook it
o'clock.
now.
21 sensors indicated that the power dropped below 35 psi.
I can tell by looking at it.
That
It just
doesn't
needs to be
trigger
cooked.
a boil water notice. Okay, that doesn't trigger a boil water notice. And the PSIs didn't just drop automatically when the power was disrupted. It was during the course of the day. So when 21 of the sensors dropped below 35, that didn't trigger boil water notice. When 16 of those 20 dropped below 20 PSIs, okay, and 14 of them dropped below PSI for less than 2 minutes, okay, then still, there was not the thinking that was going to trigger. And 2 of them dropped below PSIs for 30 minutes. So less than 2 minutes for most of them, 14, 30 minutes for 2. And so the thinking was it was not going to trigger a need for a boil water notice. And there was no alarm. And even now, we can't, and again, my notion is that the water is safe, but between 2:43 p.m. up to 6:40 p.m., the team, Houston team, was in collaboration with TCEQ. Everybody's looking at the data. Everybody's looking at the data. A decision was then made out of an abundance of caution, okay, to then issue the boil water notice. And under the normal processes, you have a city, municipality, has 24 hours to issue the boil water notice from the time of the incident. You have 24 hours. So I can understand people being angry, but what I can say to people is that this was a situation that was not being overlooked, ignored. Teams were in, our electrician was in, and as you can see, the power was restored at 12:30 p.m. CenterPoint was looking at it. We were in collaboration with TCEQ, and the decision was made out of an abundance of caution to issue the boil water notice. Okay, I will tell you, having experience in going through Harvey when our Northeast Water Purification Plant was totally underwater. In that particular case, we came close to 20 PSIs, but we never issued a boil water notice. We never did. Okay, so I can understand people's concern when we finally did it, but do understand we had 24 hours in this case. In our collaboration, everybody looking at the data, looking at the sensors and what the read was, a decision was made out of an abundance of caution.
I don't understand how, like he said, it was two units that went under for 30 minutes. So how does that affect the whole ass system? This is where my problem comes in on this whole thing. Like, okay, abundance of caution, I get it, but it's a chance that that somebody's water could be messed up, and it was only like 2 of the units that went down for like 30 minutes. So you got to do a boil water notice for all this huge area. How could that water get over there? It's something they're not telling us. Let me read the caption. It says over 2.3 million people are being affected by the boil water notice that is expected to last until Tuesday. As Mayor Sylvester Turner had an update on water testing on Monday morning. In addition, the details on the recommendation of the Energy Events Task Force in the fallout of the Astroworld tragedy. What does that have to do with it? Oh, that must have been what they were talking about later in the video. Yeah, I'm not going there. Not very many comments underneath here. They're probably blocking them because they're probably not very nice. People are, there's a lot of people who got bad words to say about Sylvester Turner. People always want to blame, I always say it's the system. So you want to blame Sylvester Turner, you got to really try to look at the system a little bit more, because he's just one guy. I had some stuff I wanted to cover. I don't know if I want to move on from this topic yet because I've been on this for a while, but I think we pretty much covered it. Let me see. Do I have anything else here? I don't see anything else. So I think I'm going to move on and do a little bit more. I can't be on here long. I got to go back to work.
There's a lot of conversation about the moral compass related to a lot of imagery that's been coming out things I told Kim this yesterday. I said, look, any form of perversion is bad in God's eyes. Any form of pornography, like, it tears apart families. It's used to tear families apart. You know, if it's a dad looking at what, you know, Pornhub, he's still looking at somebody's daughter. And a lot of the women that end up in pornography are actually products of molestation. And they're reliving that trauma every time they get on camera. So in Hollywood, people say, okay, this is right, but this is wrong. It's all wrong in God's eyes. And that's where we have to stand up and raise our standards as leaders, a world leader. We're the youngest country, and we're world leaders, and we are influencers. And somehow our country has been taken over by, you know, maybe about 300 Zionists. Sexual addiction and pornography addiction. Like, there's a lot of conversation about the moral compass related to a lot of imagery that's been coming out, and things that I told Kim this yesterday. I said, look, any form of perversion is bad in God.
Yeah, I just saw a clip. The Balenciaga thing has been going around. I think that stuff is pretty extreme. I don't, when the people want to be say that you're conspiracy theorist and all of that, and I don't go as far as that, but there's something really terrible with that Balenciaga ad. There's something really, really terrible with it. Oh yeah, this is the one I saw right here. Am I sharing this? It says, Balenciaga wants you to believe that their pedophilic ad campaign was an accident. This is Loda Volkova, their chief designer. And look at this picture. Is that not creepy and weird? Is that not creepy and weird? Holding dolls, but they're all red, like blood red too. And then it looks like she's got blood on her hands. She's got a red outfit. Hey, call me crazy. That creeps me out right there. I'm sure it's all fake. It's not real. It's a baby doll, and it's fake blood and just red color and stuff, paint or whatever, but it's like, what is it saying though? Let me read some comments underneath this one. It says, the first one says, WTF, I'm returning my shoes I ordered. Another one, it says, sounds like a Austin Powers villain. Really? This one, it says, accident, to see if people were cool with it. Now we know to they lacking. I don't know what they meant. Another one, it says Illuminati agenda. It says, why don't we cancel designer brands? Not like their products are any different from normal people clothing brands. I know, we're so brainwashed. It says, look into her stuff. There's even worse stuff. It says, but Kanye is crazy, right? Another comment, it says, and of course, this is wrong. This is not Loda. And also, although a person named Loda does exist, she does not design for Balenciaga. She's a stylist. Okay, so that's cool. Somebody clear that up. Thank you. Let's that's why I like to read the comments. But that Balenciaga ad, regardless, that lady is not related to it or not. The Balenciaga ad, are they gonna show? I think I played some of the Tucker video in my other video. I'm gonna play this one right here. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for playing this, because this is, I think it's Good Morning America. I don't know if I could play them, but
now with our GMA cover story, and the popular luxury brand Balenciaga is under fire for its recent ad campaign with children. Janae Norman has those details for us. Good morning, Janae.
Good morning and happy birthday, Robin.
Thank you.
So Balenciaga Energy Designs, the brand, the envelope, but critics are accusing the brand now of flying.
That house went favorite of stars like Kim Kardashian and celebrated in songs by Lizzo.
Don't play the music.
And Cardi B.
I like those Balenciaga.
They're killing me. How come they could play the stuff?
Sexualizing children in a controversial new ad campaign. The luxury brand now apologizing for these photos showing little girls in Balenciaga sweatsuits with plush bears and what appeared to be BDSM-inspired harnesses, and these uncovered documents on the desk showing an excerpt from the 2008 U.S. Supreme Court opinion, U.S. v. Williams, which upheld the criminalization of pandering of child pornography. We sincerely apologize for any offense our holiday campaign may have caused. Our plush bear bags should not have been featured with children in this campaign, adding that the documents in the Adidas partnership, including a featured page from a child pornography lawsuit, was unapproved.
People with responsibility should be eyeing these campaigns. Clearly, whoever was in charge at Balenciaga failed at this.
Critics sounding off on social media. One writing, I understand that a lot of Balenciaga's marketing is the shock factor of it all, but this is just disgusting. The luxury label, aligned with many big names, including Bella Hadid and Nicole Kidman, who are a part of the brand's Spring 2023 line, has since removed those controversial images from its site.
Everything about the picture will attract a child to it. There's a toy, there's another child, which is why I really think this can be so, damaging.
And Balenciaga also says of those documents shown with the bag from their Adidas partnerships that they're taking legal action against parties responsible for the set. And it's worth mentioning that both of those companies, Balenciaga and Adidas, were just in headlines cutting ties with Ye over his controversial remarks. Guys.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Janae.
Well, hey there, GMA fans.
Go freaking figure, right? Balenciaga and Adidas say we cutting ties with Kanye West. They froze his accounts and everything, and then right after that they get in trouble with some weird ad they put out. Are we living in the Twilight Zone? Like, what is going on? What is it? What is going on? Let me read the caption. It says, the popular luxury brand under fire for a recent ad campaign that featured children posing with harness-clad teddy bear purses. Like, nobody noticed that this was weird. Nobody in the whole company. They let the ad run. Nobody thought it was weird. Let me read some comments underneath the video. The first one, it says, Balenciaga is disgusting, and the child models were young girls. Clearly, there is someone in that organization that needs to be arrested and investigated. Absolutely disgusting. Another comment, it says, whoever was in charge at Balenciaga failed at this. No, it's more like whoever was in charge at Balenciaga is showing us what they're into. The situation is way too specific for it to be accidental. We have to start putting the pressure on these people to make sure that they don't continue getting rich off of their evil. Another comment, it says, the parents who allow their children to participate in this depravity need to be held accountable as well. Another comment, it says, we're so sorry for purposely involving children in bondage and strategically placing court documents about virtual child porn in our campaign ad. We had no idea we were doing it, even though it took planning and several steps. Balenciaga. Telling you, man, we're not buying that. Another comment. Just imagine the amount of people this had to go through before it was publicly posted. I'm telling you, they spend a lot of money on these ads. They don't play around. Like, had to go through all kinds of meetings, like 1,000 meetings before it was released. Another comment, it says, I am shocked that none of the people reporting this or mentioning the ad also shows the child at what appears to be the morning after an adult party with empty wine glasses and the room in disarray. There is one cup with a straw as if it was the cup the child drank from. Also, the other photo shows the child on a bed. Everything about these photos is suggestive. The plush animals are just what you notice at first, I feel sad for the models used in these photos. Another comment, it says, they need to be totally canceled. They are disgusting. This is sick. They know exactly what they are doing. Another comment, those are very specific documents. They went out of their way to put those court papers in the ad campaign. Like, how does that even fit? Like, that part is really like throwing me for a loop. Like, how does that fit with your ad? What are you selling? You selling teddy bears and clothes and purses and shoes and stuff? Why would you put a freaking court case? Let me read some more. It says Kanye is probably laughing so hard at this. He's like, I told you so. Another comment, it says Balenciaga should be canceled, but we're too busy canceling Kanye. Shaking my head. Thank you all for exposing this. What is the world coming to? Disgusting. So like, I bet you people are still gonna keep supporting these big old brands, you know, because we're cultish about it. We're so brainwashed when it comes to it. We live in this society, this system that tells us to buy stuff, and it also is a status symbol, right? Because that's the reason why people buy Balenciaga. They recognize the name because of the cost of it. They're like, oh, this person just spent, I don't know, $800 on a pair of shoes or whatever. Like, yeah, I've just spent some Balenciagas. Yeah. I bet you can't go spend $800 on a pair of shoes. I don't care what they're doing to kids or whatever's happening in their factories. I just want to stunt on my friends. Let me read another comment. It says, there has been this growing trend of sexualizing kids and introducing them to adult subjects at an early age. We can't let politics blind us to issues like these festering in our society. Another comment, it says, there's so much more left out of this story, like the grown man holding the key to the lock of the bear that the toddler was holding, the fact that the company was supposed to have a policy of not having photo shoots or models under 18. After removing the photos, they put up another photo that had as equally disturbing message, child mutilation, gore inspired art. Another comment, this was a team effort. These photos went through multiple layers of scrutiny and approval, yet parents concerned about grooming are still going to be called paranoid and delusional. Well, you know, y'all talking about, when they be talking about the damn teachers, y'all want to freaking blame the teachers for every damn thing. You know, I think your energy is directed in the wrong direction, because like how much power does this one teacher have? How many students do they really can they really influence? These damn ads are everywhere. You think your kids don't see these ads? You're crazy. These ads are everywhere. They pop up everywhere. The ads are everywhere, okay? And, you know, I avoid ads as much as possible, because I feel like the ads are the devil. I really do. Like, they're so terrible. These damn drug ads that they have, all the ads, they're terrible. This is where your energy should be, you know? You can't control what's on the billboards when you drive by, you know? You can't control what ads pop up between the TV shows or whatever the hell, or while you're scrolling whatever social media, or if you just do a search online, those ads gonna pop up. You guys are putting all your pressure on these teachers, saying that these teachers are grooming the kids. What about these ads? Couple more comments. I'm gonna move on. It says, nobody there thought kids with toys wearing harness was a bad idea. Very depressing how quick society will sacrifice the innocence of children for selfish praise. Another comment, if you ever needed proof of how disgusting the fashion industry is, this is it. Another comment, either someone at the ad agency has a beef with Balenciaga and wants to take them down by immersing them in controversy, or there's something disturbing going on at the company and someone designed this set so the world would take notice and launch an investigation. Is there more to this? The uncovered papers on the desk were not left there accidentally. Just a couple more, and I'm gonna wrap this segment. It says the ad shows the company strongly supports sexualizing children. This is a big deal. I'm so sad it took this for GMA to talk about it. I'm shocked you guys aren't outraged by what we witnessed. This is scary. One more. They should be canceled for trying to deceive the public. They're trying to make it seem as if they didn't approve it. Yeah, y'all. If y'all feel some kind of way about this, the best way to get at Balenciaga is not buy any of their products. Simple as that. And tell all your friends, don't buy no Balenciaga, and shame them when you see them with the stuff. Be like, I can't believe you are supporting this company. Stop buying their stuff. It's 3:12. I wanted to talk about China right quick before I go, because I have to go. I don't have much time. Let's talk about China real quick before we go. The freaking protests in China, they are not having it. It's the COVID zero tolerance thing that they've been going through forever. And there was a fire recently, and these people died. And part of the reason why they died was they couldn't get help because of all of these zero COVID policies.
High.
Let me see. Did they talk about it in this one?
Protests have erupted in
I think they do. Let me see.
Beijing and Shanghai, in Wuhan, in Guangzhou, and other Chinese cities over China's strict zero COVID policies. The protests were triggered by a deadly fire Thursday at an apartment building in Urumqi, the capital of the far western province Xinjiang. There are reports that local COVID-19 protocols prevented firefighters from reaching residents trapped in the burning building, resulting in the deaths of at least 10 people, including children. On Friday, crowds took to the streets in Urumqi. Protests then spread to other large cities and campuses, including Tsinghua University in Beijing, where Chinese leader Xi Jinping studied. Many of the protesters held up blank pieces of white paper. One man in Beijing told Reuters, "The white paper represents everything we want to say but cannot say." Protesters say police in Shanghai have begun detaining people who took part in the demonstrations.
In Shanghai, a lot of people have already been detained, not only last night. They did it for everybody, for all the people, for the delivery guys not to be locked in their apartments, for everybody to be able to receive medicines and food. We need to help these people, free those people in Shanghai.
On Sunday, police in Shanghai arrested BBC reporter Ed Lawrence while he was covering a protest. He was held for hours. The BBC says he was beaten and kicked by police officers. The protests in China mark an unprecedented challenge to Xi Jinping's zero COVID policies, which has resulted in extended strict lockdowns across China. Last week, hundreds of workers at the world's largest iPhone factory clashed with Chinese police over COVID restrictions, which have forced many workers to live at the Foxconn factory.
Damn.
Videos posted on social media show workers being tear gassed and beaten outside the plant. Earlier today, China announced it would ease some COVID restrictions, but affirmed its zero COVID strategy. The protests come as COVID cases are at a record high in China. There were just over 40,000 new infections reported Sunday, a new single-day high. Throughout the pandemic, China has reported far fewer COVID cases and deaths than the United States and other nations. The United States is currently recording an average of 42,000 cases a day. Since the start of the pandemic, the U.S. has recorded nearly 1.1 million COVID deaths. China's official COVID death toll is just over 5,000. Last week, China recorded its first COVID death in 6 months. To talk more about the protests in China, we're joined by Eli Friedman. He's an associate professor and chair of international and comparative labor at Cornell University. He's the author of The Urbanization of People, The Politics of Development, Labor Markets, and Schooling in the Chinese City. He's also co-editor of the new book, The China Question, Toward Left Perspectives. His recent article for the Asian Labor Review is titled Foxconn's Great Escape. Professor Friedman, thanks so much for being with us. Let's start off by talking about this uprising over the last few days in Beijing, in the financial capital, Shanghai, in Urumqi and other places, the significance of this.
Well, thanks for having me, Amy. This is unbelievably significant for a number of reasons. It is the largest protest movement that Xi Jinping has faced in the 10 years since he came to power. There was a protest that was probably larger in scale in 2012, just before he came to power, which was an anti-Japanese protest. over some disputed islands. But we haven't seen anything like this. And there's a couple of things that are really significant about it. The first is that it's nationwide. So as we've just heard, these protests are appearing in cities across the country, from the far west to the more populous East Coast. And that's extremely unusual in China. We see localized small-scale protests, but this nationwide scale is really unprecedented. The other thing that I think is really important and maybe of greater concern to the authorities is the fact that it has incorporated a really diverse group of people. We see a cross-class alliance. You've mentioned the workers, the students at Tsinghua, the most university. Students at Peking University. We see middle-class people in Shanghai. It's also a cross-ethnic movement, and I think that hasn't necessarily been fully appreciated. The fact that this is a response to a fire that happened in Urumqi is incredibly important, given the background of repression, surveillance, mass incarceration that has happened to Muslim minorities there, and so this is really one of the first time that we've seen this kind of cross-ethnic form of mobilization, and so for all of these reasons, it does present a really big challenge.
Interesting. Xi Jinping been making moves lately, a lot of stuff, but this might get him. Let me read the caption. It says, unprecedented protests have erupted in multiple Chinese cities over Xi Jinping's strict zero COVID policies, which have resulted in extended strict lockdowns across the country. The protests were triggered by a deadly fire Thursday at an apartment building in Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang, where local COVID restrictions reportedly prevented firefighters from reaching the trapped residents. This comes as hundreds of workers at the world's largest iPhone factory, Foxconn, clashed last week with police over restrictions that have forced many workers to live at the factory. Live at the factory. They're like, okay, it's COVID, zero COVID, so you can't move around. You might as well just stay here and work. Wow. Let me finish reading this. It says, China now for 3 years have seen a level of lockdown that is simply inconceivable, says Cornell labor scholar Eli Friedman, who calls the cross-class, cross-ethnic protests as a movement against surveillance. Friedman says, although China enforces the country's COVID restrictions, top U.S. corporations like Apple and Tesla are implicated in upholding the closed-loop management systems at Foxconn and other Chinese manufacturers. So that's what y'all have to understand. And then, so these U.S. corporations have a hand in this stuff. And that's the reason why they always move their production overseas, is because they can get away with this kind of bullshit what they wouldn't be able to get away with over here. Let me read some comments underneath the video. It says, Apple needs to be held accountable for the working conditions that they are allowing in China. Apple must speak up now or they are complicit. Another comment, it says, they do so well with masking in general, so I understand their frustration. That's too long. People over here threatened cashiers, teachers, and yelled at students after a much shorter time. So I commend them for standing together and not against each other. I pray conditions get better. It's really uplifting and to me when they talk about it being cross-ethnic, and they keep us over here in the States fighting with each other in these little groups that we label ourselves in. And meanwhile, it's only the few. It's the oligarchy, that's the corporations that's winning, at the end of the day. So we are getting screwed. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, gay, straight, a man, a woman, young, old, all of us getting screwed. If you're not in that owner class that's, absolutely, oligarchy, if you wasn't born with trust funds and stuff, you're not these people. Okay, so it's the majority of us, and we just need to get together. And they won't be able. They can't control us. They really can't. The way they have done it is by us fighting with each other. That's where we're putting all our energy at. The day we stop looking at race and all of that stuff, like which state you're from or something, or gender, or whatever the hell, which religion you have, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if we stop the day we stop looking at that so heavily is the day it's game over for them. Let me read another comment. It says, people should not be afraid of their governments. Government should be afraid of their people. That's exactly what that's the point I was trying to make. Another comment says, power to the people. Another comment, go Chinese people. Awesome, they are fighting for their rights. Another comment, hope he's right and the younger Han Chinese will recognize this has been going on all around them for quite some time. And I hope all the cryberries who whined about tyranny and oppression when they couldn't go to the gym or the mall will recognize the real thing when they see it. So, yeah. So, and that's another thing, how like over here in the States is China, like it's China's fault for this and China's fault for that. And the thing is that and then when it's just the same thing when they talk about Russia did this and Russia that. What you really need to try to understand is that their government is not their people. The government of China and what they do is not necessarily by the consent of the majority of the people that live there, the actual Chinese people. Same thing with Russia. You think that all the people in Russia agree with what Putin does? Like, so we can't demonize these whole people based on the actions of their government, because that's what they do to us here in the States. You know, our government does this and that around the world. Do we all agree with that? Do you even agree with your senator? You know, do you agree with your governor? You know, the House representative person that represents your district, do you agree with them? Do they make decisions that you would have made or that you agree on? Did they check with you before they made these decisions? So think about that. Don't put all these people in this boat and think that they are all evil because they're from a certain country and their country is doing horrible stuff. Their government is. You have to separate the people from the government. Because who's suffering? Just like in Ukraine, who's suffering in Ukraine? It's the people of Ukraine who's suffering. We're over here like, oh yeah, you know, we're worried about the money that's being sent, and I don't agree with that. But what I'm saying is, like, the war continues. The war goes on. We're prolonging the war. Meanwhile, more Ukrainians die. Meanwhile, Russia is blowing up the infrastructures for them. They're cold. It's the wintertime. The people are the ones that suffer as a result of the government's decisions. And do you think that all the people in Ukraine agree with these people, the war and all of this stuff? The other thing I wanted to touch on with this is because what's crazy about this is that China was the most strictest and the most, you know, vaccinated, the most like totally shut down to try to stop the spread. And so, but Africa is having a totally different outcome with this whole exact same kind of thing. And they had very low vaccination rates, and COVID is like not even a thing there. Let me play this.
Well, we're here in Africa, and you've been looking after us very much for that.
You're welcome.
I would like to do a bit of an update on the COVID situation in Africa. There was lots of uncertainties at the beginning. But let's start off with the situation now, today. Where are we? Getting near the middle of September.
Yeah. So when you look at the COVID-19 situation in Uganda, the situation is really calm. It's like we are returning to the norm where we were 2 to 3 years ago before the pandemic started. In Uganda, people are living normally and they are no longer worried about COVID-19 like it used to be. And when you look at the Ministry of Health, the measures were even relaxed a bit, and they are not updating daily like they used to.
When did the last update?
When you check on the website, you find that they last updated in 1st August. Yeah.
So 6 weeks ago nearly.
Yeah, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they have not yet updated, though their website and Twitter handle. They're active, but they're updating things that are of public concern at the moment. So it seems when you look at that information and you see in the public, when you move, I believe when we came on the way, you were able to see people in the markets, how people are moving. Generally, you barely get someone with a mask.
No.
It's like
like
everything
completely
is very
normal.
Yeah, it's
crowded
normal.
buses, crowded
Yes.
minibuses.
Yes.
Our restaurant last night was crowded. So
yes.
Back
So,
to normal.
Yeah, back to normal.
But are you're a clinical officer, so are you seeing people getting sick with COVID, or is that finished?
No, I am not actually seeing people with COVID-19 again. Actually, at the regional referral hospital where I'm working, we set up tents for emergency cases for COVID-19 because we wanted to separate them from the general patients. But since the Delta wave ended and Omicron came in, now cases decreased, the tents are even dry. There's nothing there. We barely use them. I think in the past 3 months, I've not seen anyone that we've received on the emergency ward.
And this is a big city.
Yeah, it's a big city. Yeah, even if you moved right now to the hospital, you barely get there anyone admitted with COVID-19. And yet it is a center in the region. Yeah, in the whole region of Eastern Uganda.
So we can say in Eastern Uganda, to all intents and purposes,
yes,
COVID is finished.
Yeah, COVID is no
and
longer
unless something dramatic happens, it's finished.
Yeah, unless something just
Yeah,
happens. But if things continue the way they are looking like, we are good to go.
This is really good news.
Yeah.
And presumably this is due to very high vaccination rates in Uganda, is it?
Yeah, no, not really.
No? Oh,
When,
really? Okay.
Yeah, when you look at the vaccination, because we have the population of around 44 million, but the last data, when I check here, you see that they've given about 24,859,885 doses, but that includes first and second doses. So even if we took that amount, you see that only about 50% or close to 50%.
I've had one dose.
Yeah, have at least a dose.
A dose.
Yeah, so it has one those who have had 2 and 1.
So that means 75% have had no doses.
Yeah. So we see that the majority of the population, they have not received full doses, but we are okay.
So if the reduction in cases is not due to vaccination, Mufafa, why is it that COVID has essentially gone away now in Uganda?
Yeah, this could be possibly due to cross immunity from other viral infections, because here people are exposed to a lot of infections due to the healthcare system that we have. It's really struggling, and people barely reach the hospitals. So people, most cases, recover naturally. So that helps to build immunity, which can cross and fight things like COVID-19 virus. And also, when you look at today's situation compared to the time when the Delta variant was there, we used to have a lot of cases, but now they reduced, and this came after Omicron came in. We saw that when Omicron had just come, the cases went a bit high, but in a few weeks, they started dropping, and from that time, they have really been stable. It was just until something like a month and some few weeks ago, when I think we had about BA1, BA2, when cases wanted to come up, but then the situation has gone back. So it could be that there is some sort of herd immunity, because when Omicron came, with the measures that we have, people were not even adhering well, that they opened up the whole country, people had mixed up. So people were infected, but then they were able to develop immunity, which is maybe helping in this case.
And when I look at things around here with the crowding in town and the crowding on the buses,
yes,
if Omicron came, I think it would spread through the population here really, really quickly.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, when Omicron came, during that time when cases went up, almost every person everywhere had some flu-like symptoms. So it is most likely, only that the testing is low, but it's most likely that most of the people were infected, because at least everyone in the family, everywhere, they had those symptoms. But because of the population, also the population is very young. In most cases, people are able to go through those things.
So we've got this idea where when Omicron came, everyone in the country got a cold.
Yes.
And you saw this at work.
I saw it.
Yeah, yeah.
I observed it.
Yeah.
I was also at the hospital. I saw it. But because flu for us here, actually, flu is a common thing.
Yeah, just a cold
if
rather than
a cold
influenza.
is something that is not very serious, and you can easily go through it without any intervention. So when it came, people were talking, this is COVID, but that's how it went, and it stopped, but it helped. Yeah, after that, everyone felt okay, and from that time up to now, people are okay.
So we've got two possibilities. Omicron arrived in Uganda,
yes,
and everyone got a rhinovirus cold.
Yes.
Or Omicron arrived in Uganda, and everyone got an Omicron cold.
That could be the issue.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I really tried to follow the situation like closely, because I've really been observing this thing from the beginning. I was so interested, and I was seeing when Omicron came, I could compare the figures on Twitter, website of the Ministry of Health, and then I compare what I'm seeing in the community and in the hospital where I'm working, and you could see people having those flu-like symptoms. But they didn't last for a very long time. But just there for some few weeks. When it went, we saw cases also started dropping dramatically. Yeah.
But we do know there was some Omicron because of the limited testing did indicate that Omicron was here. So we know it was here.
Yeah, it was here.
Yeah. Isn't the immune system amazing as well, that you can develop this immunity from exposure to one virus, but it's already sensitized to some extent from being exposed to other viruses?
Yes.
And we get this phenomena of, so we get the specific immunity.
Yes.
And we also get the cross immunity.
Yes.
But well, the cross immunity is a form of specific immunity. It's not innate, I guess, but it's just, it all combines together. And I think the other thing in Africa may be the parasitic infections.
Yes.
Which are way more common.
Yeah, they're very common.
Is giving cross immunity to some viral infections as well.
Yes, that is very possible, because even on a medical camp that we are hoping to have on 16th, we'll be able to see some of those cases, and you see sick people. Some things may surprise you, but people live with a lot of diseases.
A lot of comorbidities.
Yeah, comorbidities.
And even the fact that people have so many comorbidities and untreated.
Yeah, so this is something that they're not covering. And because I'm sitting here searching for more information on this, and I'm really having a hard time. I'll probably come back to it another time, because I don't have time right now to really just be searching. But it's like, Africa, different countries in Africa already have really intense systems, to deal with like outbreaks and so forth. They're really ahead of the curve in a lot of ways, because they have to deal with some really nasty stuff like Ebola, smallpox or whatever. That stuff is really, really nasty. And so they jump on it really fast, and they're really good about it. But the COVID thing was a thing, remember they were talking about the vaccines, and it was like we threw a lot of them away here in the States. They expired. And a lot of countries in Africa were asking for, but they wasn't getting them. So anyway, despite low vaccination rates across Africa, it seems COVID is just really dissipating, really kind of disappearing. Like, we're comparing it to China, who's still in zero lockdown, and they was on that from the jump. And it's been like 3 years now, and they're going through it. And Africa didn't even get the vaccines, and they seem like they're just living life normally, in a lot of places around Africa. So, that's interesting. And I think that's something that we need to think about. And then I also see how like they're not telling the truth related to these coverages of this information. But I'm sure the data is there. I know I can look it up. I know I can look up like the number of deaths and all of this. And I'm sure it'll show that, across Africa was really, really low compared to other places, the West, and so they're not covering this that way, though. because I was just searching right now, and all of the articles are saying, Africa didn't deal with it very well, and people were dying and excess deaths and so forth and so on. So, but that's just them saying that. That's not like giving numbers. So I'm willing to bet that if they actually put the numbers there, it would not reflect what they're actually saying. And let me read some comments underneath this one. It says, the vaccine was not brought in for COVID. COVID was brought in for the vaccine. Once you realize that, everything else makes sense. Dr. Rena Fulmich. Another comment, it says, I had COVID in South Africa. I am unvaccinated. My symptoms were mild. Our human bodies have innate intelligence to heal themselves, aided by better eating habits, love of self, and no fear of what might happen, not listening to the gloom mongers. And, another thing, and I want to be careful how I say this, but a lot of information is coming out about, people who were vaxxed and people who weren't, and the number of deaths doesn't reflect what they were saying. A lot of the people who died were vaccinated. I want to be careful how I say that. They're going to get me. Let me read some more. It says, many people in Africa had the luxury of locking down and had to work every day. Let me start over. Many people in Africa never had the luxury of locking down and had to work every day to survive. They weren't sucked into the fear virus that spread through Europe and America. I believe many have much stronger immunity and something else called common sense, which seems to be not so common in the industrialized West. There are enormous lessons to be learned from their approach. Another comment, it says, natural immunity over vaccination for me, best decision I've ever made. Lots and lots of friends over the lost lots of friends over the mandates here in Canada. Could not even fly domestically for 8 months. I felt vindicated for what I felt all along. Another comment, it says, some people in the villages have never worn masks until now. Completely normal lives. Love to hear it. Another comment, it says, brilliant to hear this. It's so rare to hear Western professionals calling for the West to listen and learn from other regions of the world rather than enforce their own theories and narratives on them. A welcome humility and very important message. Thank you. I swear everything would be so much improved if we could just, we taught all of these people are uncivilized, they're backwards, they're, undeveloped, third world, however you want to call it, that West East, and so because of that, we don't listen to the stuff that they do. I think that, what works the best is what we should use everywhere across the world. We have the communications and we have the abilities to actually look at the data, put our freaking prejudices aside and actually look at the data and see what works the best and export that around the world. How come that's common sense? How come we can't do that? That is so crazy to me. It's so insane. Oh, we don't want to listen to how they did it because, they're backwards anyways. It worked. Yeah, that's beside the point. They're backwards. Let me read another one. It says, well done, Uganda. Excellent proof that a nation can handle a health issue without a singular intervention. Another comment. This was a disease of affluence. Fascinating. I'm in the U.S. and it is becoming obvious that our lifestyle had a lot to do with the high death rate. Another comment. It says, I traveled to Uganda for the first time after COVID and I was shocked how free everyone was. They are so strict in California. Another comment. Uganda is an inspiration for the rest of the world. Love seeing you reach out to other communities, Dr. John. Another comment, it says, great interview and of significant importance. Here is a theory to entertain. The Western world suffers from a processed foods addiction, which is detrimental to the equilibrium of our natural health system, a biochemical system that is easily thrown out of balance by wrong lifestyles and by the chemical content of those processed foods, which in a sense you cannot really call food at all. A strong immune system is attained by a proper lifestyle and real foods. These lovely poor people in Africa, as it turns out, that cannot afford Western chemical foods, had a strong natural defense against the virus. That is clearly our first line of protection. Eat natural and simple for God-given natural health. Another comment. Thank you, Dr. Campbell and Dr. Wiwafa for this amazing interview. My family live in Switzerland, and none of them got the jab, and there were very few deaths as well. What a wonderful interview. Thank you for all your research. You and a few other doctors kept me informed and gave me hope during the last 2 years. May God bless you. Another comment. This is more evidence of the horror that non-medical leaders have imposed on the peoples of the world. I really enjoyed this interview. Putting a face to Africa was heartwarming. Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Another comment. The good doctor just explained what any self-respecting health professional ought to know. Concepts of cross-immunity, herd immunity, and acquired immunity with immunological memory were condemned as heresy these past 2 years in favor of a single solution vax. This doctor has no ulterior motive. He's not being bought or coerced. He simply is here to do good for his patients. God bless him. A couple more comments. Fantastic discussion, docs. Yes, we can learn terms from the COVID experience in Africa. Funny how we in the West think that we're so smart and can almost predict everyone else's doom. Then we should have been concerned about our own problems. Another comment. So refreshing to hear someone who practices patient-centered medicine on a rational basis without corporate policies driving absurd processes. Another comment. Excellent report. I'm so pleased that Uganda proved to be a very different story. No vaccines accepted in my household either, and everyone is in top health. Another comment. John, your journey has been an evolutionary and inspiration to countless numbers of those who have followed you over the past couple of years. Not only have you followed the data, which at times has led to uncomfortable truths and realization, but you've continued the journey in the spirit of helping people across the globe to navigate and make sense of the situation during times when such assurances were lacking. My sincere thanks to you, your contributors, your supporters, and all of those across the world who listen and are still listening, supporting, and stepping up. Thank you. Well, I'm gonna have to wrap it. I'm not subscribed to this guy. I've seen some of his stuff. Anyways, I gotta go, y'all. I have to go to work. So thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for joining. Peace.